It used to be all so simple. You used to just pick your team, get the best players you could, play a cat mode, play some all-star, find yourself in a region. But no, everything's all changed and now we have got to get our ducks in a row. And the number one comment I've been getting on videos recently is, Quinny, what is the best divisions? What is the best region? Whatever we're going to call it, for me to be putting my focus towards ahead of the new season. In the video today, I'm going to be breaking down all of the different competitions that are going to be laying out with all the things that you need to keep at the front of your mind when building your strategy and making decisions on what players, what clubs to be identifying and bringing into your own club, as well as maybe what ones you don't need anymore. Now, when we walk down this path, we do open up a multiverse of probabilities. In the video today, it's not just about going through the regions and what they offer, but how they perhaps interact with one another as well at any point in the video today. If you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers. And we can't do that without your support, guys. If you're brand new to Sorare and you haven't even started yet, the link is in the description of the video. If you get stuck, if you've got any questions, just drop a comment and I'll come and sort you out. By clicking on that link, you get a market discount, T's and C's apply, and you support all the content here at the channel. And I thank you in advance if you do so. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, we'll start at the top and work our way down, figuratively speaking. And of course, by starting at the top, I'm of course talking about the champion division, as well as what comes along with that, the permutations of playing in the Premier League, in the La Liga, in the Bundesliga, special competitions to win cards, money, and whatever else goes along with it. But the champion region is easily the easiest one to actually scout, get up-to-date injury knowledge, as well as like good team selection, good predicted lineups, good probability of knowing what players are going to be in and out. And really, it's the number one division that most people will find themselves comfortable in picking up a few players in and getting to know. So it's very reasonable to assume that this is going to be the competition that most people want to have the best cards available to play in, whether it be the classic or the in-season competitions, because they're the biggest games in world football. They're the most televised games. It's the biggest stars in the world. And even if you don't have the resources, the means, or even the want to go out and get players from Real Madrid and all the top other teams around the world, the players and the teams that you probably do want to build your team around could quite easily fall into these divisions. Now, the one thing I will say about this division that a lot of people are missing when formulating their plans is this competition, Champions on Sorare, the Champions League, the Champions Region, isn't going to be open 12 months of the year because it is only the top 5 divisions in European football, the top 5 divisions in world football, you'd probably say. And because of that, it has a real seasonality to it. So if it is a division that you want to live in, without having maybe another companion team, another companion competition on the go, then Sorare will be very much European calendar focused for you. And your players, you'll then be relying upon them to be international players and for Sorare to be facilitating all that good stuff in the off-season as and when it's on. And really, no matter what level of the game you're going to be playing at, if it is with limited cards, rare cards, or anything a bit more expensive and a bit more fancy than that, then when it comes to rewards day, nothing does sting quite like getting into a top tier, getting into a top position and being rewarded with a card that you don't have any need, want, or desire for, or you even know. And in the Champions region, you're definitely protected from that much, much more than the other divisions. But because it is the top division, it is dog eat dog, it is, the big teams that can dominate and go on to win the league that are going to get the most amount of wins every weekend, the most amount of goals scored every weekend, the most amount of wins over a season, you know what I'm saying? And the rest of the clubs in that region are going to be guys that you're waiting for their weekend to come. It might be 4 times a year, it might be 10 times a year, it might be once a year, depending on the club and the stack and whatever you go into. But because it is only really the creme de la creme that are very much safe in that region, they're only going to transfer between other top clubs. We're talking about guys that play in the Champions League, play in the top teams in the top divisions. Outside of that, players can transfer anywhere out of the top 5 leagues in European football, whether it be all the way down into the contender region, down in the basement, or into the challenger region. So if you are going to be building a significant base, a significant footprint in champion and just be like a champion player when the European calendar's on, cool. But the longer you play Sorare, especially if you are building a collection or 1 or 2 clubs, that kind of thing, when players do, even just innocently, maybe even get loaned out for minutes if it's a prospect, never mind guys that are cast aside and transferred around European world football. And I think for anyone that's playing Sorare to any sort of serious degree will need to have their fingers in 2 different regions somehow. somehow, because you want positive transfers, whether it be down the pyramid or up the pyramid, to benefit you and your club somehow at every opportunity. Now, it's going to be really hard to cover all the bases. I don't think many, if any, will endeavour to do that, but we definitely need to be thinking about some sort of companion strategy, as it were. And a lot of people will be looking at the Challenger region. The Challenger region in the middle here, if we have a look at the layout of it all, there is only actually 8 leagues in here, and of that, only 4 of them are actually complete divisions that have full teams every season on Sorare as things stand now. There's lots of rumours that go around the community, one of them being that Brazil might actually, along with Argentina, become full league licenses perhaps in the future. And I could see that maybe happening alongside the likes of Denmark, maybe even Portugal as well, for them to be in this band. But as it stands now, there's only 4 leagues of full teams. The MLS does have a huge club count. It's got a lot of clubs in it at the moment. So in terms of actual players and squads you can choose from, MLS kind of counts as 2 in terms of how big it is. But this is a very funny competition because of how it's split. If we look at it from an EU and a non-EU perspective, it's basically MLS and Brazil and Belgium, Holland and Turkey. And then we've got a couple of other clubs from Denmark and Portugal and the English Championship sprinkled in there as well. But we can only win cards from teams that are currently playing. So the Challenger region number 1 gives us a fantastic opportunity to completely cover the calendar. Sorare players who have been around the block a few times will already know that the Turkish league is one of the go-to leagues for the European calendar to miss all the kind of winter breaks and shutdowns and all the rest of it. And again, for anyone following world football, you'll see the amount of football that gets played in MLS, especially what is on the fixture list for the coming season ahead on Sorare, is borderline obscene. So there's a little bit of Turkish delight to be had here with an MLS and a Turkish league combo where you can completely cover 12 months of the year, and when they do intersect with one another, you can not only win cards in the respective divisions that that'll help you, but you may be able to pull more European cards or even the Brazilian cards if that's what you're motivated by. But I know a lot of people are mainly motivated by the European teams. And if you look at Belgium and Holland, very, very well represented Sorare leagues on the platform already that will already have strong collections, strong galleries, strong stacks built to go into this region already. But this region as an entire thing is pretty open week to week, to be quite honest with you. I know every league individually outside of MLS has its smashers, has its top 3, top 4 clubs that normally run away with the division. But as we see in the old Challengers League, it's not always as cut and dry as PSV doing the business or Bruges or whoever. But a lot of those clubs have significant squads on their books and are high impact European caliber teams. Whenever we see teams from this region do well, particularly in the Europa League and the Europa Conference League, they tend to be the team of the season on Sorare, where it's all the value stacks of, 20 or Zagreb or USG, whoever it might be, really shine and really come to the fore because of performing at weekends and midweeks as well. But a lot of talent that circulates around this region here, with maybe the exception of MLS and Turkey in particular, is emerging talent generally. Denmark, Portugal, Holland and Belgium are definitely the top divisions that feed into the top 5, that sell their best players, most of the time young prospects, but sometimes even guys that bloom into their mid-20s into champion. So if you're building teams, you're getting really good players, you're always going to be at a little bit of a transfer jeopardy that they move up the pyramid somewhat. And ultimately, I do think Challengers is probably the number 1 region for most Sorare managers who don't have the budget to go straight into champion, to probably start off with for that kind of high impact Euro, success that we know they can offer, as well as, like I said earlier, the top talents can make that migration up. And the top talents that come out of these leagues are generally what go on to be the top talents in European football. And that's a huge part of the Sorare journey, which does bring in another parallel that we'll really come to later in the video. But the contender region, or the bargain basement, or the doldrums, or whatever you want to think of it as, where it's really the SPFL, the Argentinian League, Croatia, all the second tiers around Europe. So I'm talking about Bundesliga 2, Serie B, as well as the J and the K League, and another little hatful of nondescript leagues that we don't need to go into right here, right now. And this region is definitely the one that a lot of people look at first with a bit of the stink eye, like, hey, what's the whole point in getting into that division and really kicking up a fuss and building a really strong club and a really strong gallery and going and competing week in and week out. And do you know, I kind of get that on the face of it. The Scottish League, the Croatian League, Austria, Russia, Norway, Switzerland, these leagues leagues don't always or regularly sell into the top teams in the top leagues with a lot of success on a regular basis. So there's not as much maybe hype there in terms of getting young prospects or building into a club, that kind of thing. But what it does offer in terms of all of those second tier teams is the ultimate backdoor into the champion division itself through promotion. As we've seen just in football anyway, but if you've been playing Sorare for the last little while, some teams can do really good in Bundesliga 2, get promoted and do very well in the Bundesliga. Never mind La Liga. Obviously the English Championship isn't in here, that's in the Challenger region, but Serie B and Ligue 2 are all in there, you know, and if you can get a full team in there that is going to be kicking ass and taking names if they're getting promoted, they're going to win a lot of games, score a lot of goals, and along the way win a lot of cards and maybe win a bit of money in that region, you can then be in a lovely situation, depends on the club you're backing, you're supporting, you're building a collection of maybe that yo-yo status of you have a great time in Contender. You know, you get promoted. Maybe sometimes they do well. You have a few good game weeks once in a while, but maybe they get relegated. Maybe they stave off relegation. They survive. You kind of grow and build with them. I do think there's a good bit of fun there if champion is the aim, is the goal for you to get into. And also by having those second division teams, a lot of players do come on loan from the teams in those top tiers. So if you have a Bundesliga and a Bundesliga 2 team each, you know, there's a good bit of logic, a good bit of rationale in that to give you maybe that duality that we're talking about in terms of covering yourself on different parts of the season or different parts of the calendar. Because even with the Bundesliga 2 cards, you could be winning cards from Mexico and Argentina and places like this and then use them when they're off season. The SPFL and the K-League both have very favourable fixture lists traditionally on Sorare. Not too many stop-start gaps compared to other leagues in some of these regions, and together they could actually maybe not quite be that Turkish delight that we get with MLS and the Turkish Superliga, but the K-League, I think it has less breaks than the J-League, and we know the SPFL has like the same calendar as England, essentially. It just runs all the way through the winter period. So again, if you're looking to play all year round, there's some good divisions there that can work with that, as well as there's some nice kind of funny ones like Norway and Russia that have interesting calendars as well. But I think SPFL in Korea can give you great access to, you know, players that will play all year round, and you can do both sides of the competition as well without worrying too much about missing any key weekends. And then when they do cross over with one another, there's some other great teams in those divisions to help bolster the teams you've got around, you know, your kind of base, your foundation anyway. So I actually think Contenders is going to be filled up with many, many more scout managers or managers that are playing very cutely on a budget, that maybe play for a little bit of that yo-yo effect on the Bundesliga 2 teams or the La Liga 2 teams, as well as maybe trying to get in some of those power stacks, because these leagues that are in here, like, I can't really speak for Mexico, but Argentina, Austria, Scotland, Croatia, you probably know who's going to win those divisions. Although there is a lot of variance sometimes, because as we see, Zagreb are currently third in their league. Celtic aren't doing too hot either. And Salzburg have never been mad smashers on Sorare for the time that they've been on the platform either. So there is still that variance of anyone could probably still win that division every single weekend. Now, like we mentioned with Challengers, there's a lovely parallel that drops alongside all of these divisions, and it's under 23s. It's the final bastion of global fantasy football that we have here on Sorare. And for me, this is probably going to be the number one option for most people to get their companion squad, their backup division. I don't want to say backup, actually, that's not the word I mean, but their secondary strategy that supports their main one. Because under 23 is a lot of fun, and those players, when they go on and have a great career, can be fantastic. And also because of the whole makeup of under 23s, you don't always need to hit as hard on the leaderboard to make a significant dent and actually pull a pretty good prize and have a good game week as a result. And the good thing the under 23 gives you is no matter really where any of these players are migrating around, if you do have an under 23 goalkeeper, you know, if a guy goes on loan from Man City to Cardiff or something, I don't know, Real Madrid to Leganes, Chelsea to Vitesse, or Brighton players going to USG, there could be a whole host of different things that goes on. But if they're under 23 cards that you're mainly dealing in, or that are getting that kind of exposure of migrating around, you know, European football or whatever, if they are under 23, having an under 23 goalkeeper there will allow you to kind of, you know, enjoy the benefits of, you know, that part of that player's career for whatever is going on. And if they do make significant transfers up or down the football food chain, as it were, If they are still under 23, again, you don't really need to worry too much about what region they're moving into or it changing. So under 23 is like that number 2 safety net, as it were, for transfers or situations changing. It's probably going to be the number 1 selection. Under 23s is going to be so much fun probably going forward, because the way the division makeup should work out, I think lots of people are going to have fun building under 23 teams, scouting some hot prospects in European football. And really, no matter what region or competition you are going to live in as a base, I do think you need to have another one on your radar. Most people might actually go for under 23s we're talking about now. But for the next couple of months, and when we get to August, when it's like new Sorare time, it's going to be fascinating to see the champion and contender combos that we see galleries built around, or challenger contender, or challenger champion, champion under 23, contender under 23. There's so many interesting combinations that will come out of what will become people's base, their core of what makes their galleries really competitive and strong, before they then go into the expansion or the frivolous teams of, I just thought I'd get another goalkeeper, or, you know, what we all end up doing once our core strategy is set to kill. Especially if you're not starting in champ, because I just think everyone is going to have a champ Euro or a La Liga or a Premier League or a Bundesliga team on their radar somewhere. Maybe something that they build or they work towards over time by using their knowledge, using their budget in some of the regions and some of the combinations that we've spoken about in the video today. But because the most amount of money is going to be won between the Prem, La Liga and Bundesliga and Champ Rare as individual competitions, every ambitious Sorare player is going to aspire to get to one of those divisions at some point. So if you're not starting there, you want to get as many opportunities to get your players into that as cheaply and as effectively as possible. And if you are starting in there, you're paying the premium of starting at the top of the mountain. And if some of the players that you buy maybe roll behind, yeah, you can sell them, yeah, you can trade them, but maybe that's not always what you want to do, or maybe your club will be big enough to carry them in. But what ones will we catch and what ones will we let fall? I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. On screen there now is some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.